Hi, this is Larry Swanke, Director of Azure Sales.
I'm Jay Douglas, Solution Architect, focusing on Azure technologies.
Welcome to Questions from the Cloud.
Our next installment of the Azure Bootcamp series. Today we're talking about some of our experiences and lessons learned from the cloud and share those with you so you can make a better decision with your cloud strategy.
Right, Jay, one of the most common questions we get today is, where do I start? A common place for most customers to start is just an assessment. Let's find out what you have in your data center today. On 100% of the engagements that Jay and I have been engaged with the customers over the last year, all those customers have found servers or applications or databases that they thought had been decommissioned already, but were still running. So a good assessment and inventory is a great place to start. From there, we can determine what is the first workload that you can move into Azure. A common workload is test dev, or a popular one today is SQL databases. Easy to move, cost effective, and a great way to get your feet wet and getting started in Azure.
And one thing that we're finding, and you let me know, Larry, is using the automated tooling to find these workloads and discover them. Because sometimes just going off human memory or spreadsheets or asset inventory doesn't paint the whole picture. So using automated tools such as Maps, Stratazone, and Movair provide the opportunity to discover these systems that maybe not every IT professional knows about.
Correct. Yep. Another common problem we get from customers is optimization. They've made their jump into Azure, they've been in there for 3 or 6 months, and it's not really operating, or they're not getting the value that they're thinking out of Azure. One good example comes to mind. I had a customer that we got set up in Azure, we knew what their monthly spend was going to be, and about 2 months later they called me and they were quite upset. Their spend had jumped to $10,000 a month, not in their budget at all. When I went into their portal and I reviewed what they did, I found that they had accidentally set up an Azure SQL database PaaS solution, Platform as a Service solution, as opposed to running their SQL licenses in AS. We quickly corrected that problem and brought their spend right down again. So even when you get started in Azure, there's the opportunity to optimize as you grow.
Absolutely, and using the tooling that's within Azure to kind of watch your spending, watch your resource utilization, will help you get ahead and identify any issues before they become problems.
And another big one that Jay's going to cover is security. We've been engaged with a number of customers recently said, we think we've done it right, we think we've set it up right, but we need to have someone come and review how we've done it.
Exactly, and from securities on a couple different fronts. Edge security and what you're using for application gateways and application firewalls. What are you doing there to kind of detect and analyze the traffic that's coming in that could possibly exploit your endpoints? In addition to that, how are you leveraging governance and security to make sure that your resources behind the scenes are protected from inadvertent or human issues? So one thing we're coming in is people set up these resources and infrastructure and services first and then realize after the fact they may not have addressed security. What we recommend is assess your security situation and plan for it up front.
And finally, one thing to think of. In the customers that we've been engaged with and what I've seen over the last 5 years in the cloud, every customer falls into 3 buckets. And you might find yourself in this as well. The first bucket is we are definitely moving to Azure. We're moving to the cloud as quick as we can. In that instance, the best place to get started is an assessment. Do an inventory. Let's use a tool such as Stratazone or Maps that Jay mentioned, and let's figure out what you have and get those and do a priority in which ones can go in the cloud first. The second one is you don't know where to start. Again, an inventory is a good place to start, but you want to figure out what your internal processes are. Do you have a full-time DBA, for example? Are you managing that DBA through a network LAN admin? Maybe the SQL would be a good place to start so you can free up those resources. And finally, the biggest example of where customers are getting started in Azure that really excites Jay and I is a brand new frontier application. Something that is mission critical, that will allow the company to grow in a new direction, expand the company's business, such as a mobile app. And yeah, the customer wants to move to Azure eventually, but they know this initial foray into Azure is going to really benefit their company in the long run.
And this is really what you're talking about is them building a cloud-first application. And that is leveraging the PaaS components and all the power of the cloud from the beginning. And this is where Azure can give you the most value with greenfield applications as you described.
So I've been engaged in hundreds of Azure discussions over the last 3 or 4 years, and the common question that comes up is, how can I justify moving to Azure? How can I justify moving to the cloud? We certainly have done a number of financial analyses. What is the cost of your current data center? When is your next hardware refresh? How much is it going to cost you in services in Azure, and compare those apples to apples. Typically what we find is the cost of the cloud is a little bit more expensive than doing an on-premise data center. And the reason is most customers are thinking about an apples to apples comparison. I'm going to do a data center move, I'm going to do a lift and shift, and I put everything in Azure. And it's not really the reason why you're looking to move to the cloud. The cloud's not going to offer you an opportunity to save money. It's going to offer you an opportunity to improve business processes and to make money. For example, you may say, I'm just going to move all my SQL databases into Azure. In reality, you want to do an inventory of those SQL databases, figure out which applications are currently accessing those databases, and what type of data is residing in that data, what type of intelligence is residing in that data, so you can see if there's some golden nuggets that you can dig out of it around customer churn or something. That way, you're not doing a lift and shift. You're modernizing what you're doing in the data center, and you're doing something totally different and trying to find a new way to make money or improve business processes or free up those people that are managing servers today into improving the business processes or doing business intelligence or something that helps the company grow.
And another windfall that we're noticing that people are experiencing from moving to the cloud is from an operational capacity. So using the power of the cloud, you don't have as many operations as you do on site. So for instance, the recoverability of certain of assets and resources. Redundancy across geographic regions. That's difficult to do on premise, especially if you don't have multiple data centers and to do cleanly. The kind of the backups and monitoring and other operational components that come with the cloud, and specifically Azure that it has available, and an increase in security. Now you have full-time monitoring of your assets and resources. You have threat analytics, and you have an infrastructure that's undergoing pen testing on a consistent basis. You don't get that with your on-premise data center without a considerable investment. Another reason to move to the cloud.
I'll leave you with this example. I was talking to an oil and gas executive down in Houston, and he said, look, the job of our company is to find oil. That's it. That's the job of everybody in my IT staff, is to help us find oil. To have one of my people manage an Exchange server or to manage a SQL database doesn't help us find oil. If I can free up those resources, put them back in the business, help look at ways that we can find new areas to find oil and reduce the amount of time it takes to go from discovery to actual production, that's what makes our company money, not managing servers. So we hope some of these examples are good for you. And again, if you want more information, click on the link below and you'll schedule a meeting directly with us.